Good morning. I'm still struggling to comprehend how come French has so many syllables in it. It seems impossible, but there you have it. We're going to be picking up today on Peter's words about finishing, about the end of things. And I just wanted to start by asking people, have you ever been doing something that was so good that you just think, I wish this would never end? Has there ever been anything in your life where you just think, or do things come around sometimes that you think, I wish that would never end. This is so good, I wish it would never end. Does it ever happen? See, what?
When I was about 6, my mum and dad took me to see Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
And it ended, and I just sat there for about an hour. I just couldn't believe it had finished. It was so painful. I wanted it to carry on.
Mary Poppins, wished it would never end, could carry on and on. Anything else?
Yes, this song.
Sorry?
That song.
Yeah?
I wish it never ended.
You wish that song had never ended. Wish that song had never ended, even with the French in it. It would have been, if we could have done it with a few more repetitions, I may have mastered it in that time. So, the song, a film, which is more than a film, anything else? On holiday, yeah. Has anyone ever been on a holiday and they just thought, oh, this is so good, I wish this wouldn't end? Yeah? Yeah. Oh, holiday in Australia. Another year in Australia. Sometimes on the flight, probably think, oh, this feels like it's never going to end, just getting there. But yeah, a holiday. Holy? Sorry? Peppa Pig. Just wish Peppa Pig would never end. You and Boris Johnson. That's excellent. Anne?
Very boring. Camping for a whole month with the kids.
Camping for a whole month.
And we didn't want to come home.
And you just didn't want, you just think, I wish this would never end. Does anyone feel like that ever about Christmas? I remember when Lewis was little, he would just say, I wish it were Christmas every day. I wish that would never end. Yeah, I would shudder, similarly. My bank account definitely would take a hit. But there are things we do that we wish would never end. I have this feeling every... Oh, there's supposed to be a picture of them. Thanks, Paul. I have this every Friday. For me, it's not cake, the last slice of cake. Veronica, you get the cake. I'm more of a savoury person, but for me, it's pizza. I have pizza every Friday, no matter how big I make it, and I make them bigger and bigger. But it breaks my heart to see the last slice of pizza on a plate, because I just wish it would never end.
My son used to have competitions to see how many pizzas they could eat. He managed 12.
12. See, I could give him a run for his money, I imagine, on this. Okay, well, how about then, do we have the opposite? Let's not go for anything super sad, by the way, but do we have the opposite? Gets caught up in things to think, oh, I just wish this would end. Waiting for the bus, yeah. I wish the wait would end. Anything else? I just wish it would end.
I wish waiting for the cake would end.
Waiting for the cake. It does end. We know it ends for you. I'm not saying what the telltale signs are. Crumbs, at least. But, yeah, waiting, yeah. Dental treatment. I had that down as well. Dental treatment. Doug? The Ukraine war, yeah. Sometimes looking, thinking, when will it end? When will it end? No one's saying school. I'm very impressed. Because Sorry? Yeah, boy, she would have been saying, term time, I wish school would end. When will it end? If I were caught up in a month's camping, I have a sneaking feeling I'd be thinking, when will this end? But, each to their own. And of course, sometimes knowing that you're near the end keeps you going. I remember the Brownlee race right near the end when one of them collapsed and the other helped them over the line. Imagine if you felt like that, minutes in. You'd just give up, wouldn't you? But knowing you're on the last lap might just keep you going. So in terms of school, often you start counting it and think, only 3 weeks to go. We're on the last lap. I've started counting off years to pension, actually, so that kind of thing works as well. A few too many. But, it keeps you going there. And it's this kind of thing that Peter is conjuring up when he comes up with this phrase. He says, the end of all things is near. We're on the last slice of cake. He's saying the end of all things is near. Now, he'd lived with the teachings of Jesus that had already said, don't invest too much in the things that you can see and the things you need. Do you remember these teaching of Jesus when Jesus said, I tell you, don't be worried about food and drink or cake or pizza and all that you need in order to stay alive, or about clothes for your body. After all, isn't life worth much more than food? And isn't the body worth more than clothes? Look at the birds of the air. They do not plant, they do not gather, harvest and put it in barns, yet your Father in heaven takes care of them. Aren't they worth much more than the birds? Can you live a little bit longer by worrying about it? So already there was this idea. Don't get too obsessed with just what you can see. Peter ups the ante and he says, don't get too bogged down in all this, because the end of it is near. The end of it all is near. That may be going a bit far for us. There's one thing to say, well, we're at the end of the last slice of cake, but the end of everything, I'm not quite sure. It's the message, isn't it, of Mad Men. If you go down to Birmingham, into the town, and you see the street preachers, you might hear something like this. The world is about to end. And the fact, of course, that we're still here makes that look a little bit silly, makes Peter look a little bit silly, because he said this a long time ago. The end of all things is near. And here we are, trundling on, wondering even if we're close to the last lap. Because the world is solid, isn't it? Everything around here. The world is solid. It doesn't look like it can pass away very quickly. And not just the solid things, but all of the things, our schools, our banks, our shops, everything. It all looks like it's designed to keep on going. And so it sometimes feels a bit ridiculous to think it could be like the cake or the pizza or the holiday that will come to an end. Maybe in these days of environmental crisis, we can start to get a little bit more what Peter was saying, think, it doesn't sound quite so fanciful anymore. But if we struggle with the word near in that sentence, the end of all things is near, it wouldn't even be unreasonable to substitute it with the end of all things is certain. The end of all things is certain. That still gets at what Peter was trying to get at. Peter, when he writes his second letter, these kind of things are obviously playing on his mind, and he says, remember that a day is as 1,000 years for the Lord. So near is a relative concept. But what he's really trying to get at is the end of all these things is certain. When he says, what he wants to say is, don't get too stuck in thinking about the institutions, the schools, the supermarkets, our ways of doing things. Don't get too bogged down in that, because the end of all of this is definitely certain. You can tell that's what he's on about, because he gives advice of how to live. If all of this is going to end, if all of this is passing, is not the real thing, is going to go, how to live. And he said, well, dedicate yourself to prayer. Love one another. Serve one another. Don't be bogged down in the way we do things in this world, because the end of all of that is certain. And that's a very central Christian and biblical conviction. It doesn't simply mean that the created world is going to pass away. The scriptures tell us that creation will be renewed by God. But it does mean that the world that we have made, the lifestyles, the institutions, the banks, the hierarchies, the priorities, the celebrities, the billionaires, or at least the dynamics that produce all of these things, the end of all of this is certain. And if we invest our energies, our aspirations, our dreams, our desires into these things, then we are not playing the long game. That's what Peter is on about. If that's all you can see, if that's all you care about, you're not playing the long game, you're not in it for the long haul, because these things are passing. And we can quibble about whether it's near or whether it's certain. But these things are passing. And if you don't get it, then you've just not heard the lively and the lovely melody of resurrection. Because resurrection says it's all passing. It's all got to be renewed. And therefore, Peter says, get that into your heads, because you need that in order to live differently. If you think this is everything, if you think this is as solid as it seems sometimes, you won't live differently. And we're going to come back a little bit later on to look at what that differently might look like. But for now, let's sing together a song from the Rend Collective, I believe. It's The King of Me.
Let me just